DJ PK, and we are joined by Brian Dunseth, former Real Salt Lake player, broadcaster, now working for Apple TV. Dunny, good morning.
Dude, I love the intro music. Listen a little petty on a nice little Tuesday morning before I go head out to RSL training. I miss you, my man. It's good to talk to you. It's been a while.
It has been a while. It's good to talk to you, too. You bounce around the league calling games. How did you happen to end up with RSL and Messi?
Yeah. Well, first off, let's not imply like I had a choice. When I get the schedule, I get the schedule. So, yeah, listen, I think, obviously when the announcement happened that Lionel Messi for the first time was coming to Salt Lake City along with Inter Miami, it reminded me a lot of when Dave Checketts brought Real Madrid to play Real Salt Lake ahead of the announcement that they were breaking ground at what is now America First Field. I think at the time I was joking with you. I was like, that's like taking the New York Yankees to Timbuktu, bringing Real Madrid here to Salt Lake City. But that was the first of some really landmark moments, and understanding what the power of Lionel Messi is. I've called his games with Argentina. I've called his games with Inter Miami at the FIFA Club World Cup. I called games last season down in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, more specific, now after they've opened a new stadium. And to know that the casual fan, and listen, I'm from Southern California. I had friends that went out to the Coliseum to watch LAFC beat Inter Miami, and since then have gone to multiple games at BMO Stadium, have become LAFC fans. Understanding what is kind of the idea of the circus and getting the opportunity to see, for me, the greatest of all time, surpassing Pele, Maradona, certainly ahead of Cristiano Ronaldo in my world, to know that all of kind of soccer fans or those that are aware of a guy like Lionel Messi's name is going to be in the state of Utah is not only an unbelievable opportunity for those that get to watch it, but more importantly, huge opportunity for Real Salt Lake to convert some soccer fans that aren't necessarily RSL fans. So for me, for Tio Max, really, really excited. We have got this game, and then we have the game on Saturday down in Miami against the New England Revolution. And a turbulent kind of couple of weeks with Javier Mascherano stepping down as head coach of Inter Miami and the search for a new manager for Lionel Messi and company.
You speak of Salt Lake, right, and it's a one-shot deal. How about going bigger picture in terms of what it does for the league and the sport in the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw that at the weekend, 75,000 at Mile High Stadium. And listen, I think it was a unique decision for RSL to stay and keep that game at America First Field. I think very easily, they could have gone to a bigger venue. Obviously, that has commercial and financial ramification and trickle-down effects in terms of what your entire gate take-home is. But again, I think for the league itself, it's never going to be lost on me the power of David Beckham's decision to come to the LA Galaxy. I think and I don't think he gets enough credit, to be quite honest with you. I think he changed the trajectory of Major League Soccer as a whole. I think you're seeing that with expansion slowing down and multi-billion-dollar ownership models starting to be created, especially here. I mean, who would have had soccer in Utah having four different billion-dollar owners invested over the last 6 to 8 years? So again, how does RSL take advantage of this opportunity? I'll be really honest with you. It's walking away with a full 3 points, a dominant performance, and still giving the fans what they want, which is an opportunity to see one of the if not the most elite player we've ever seen in the modern game.
Well, one thing fans want to walk away with is entertainment, and the criticism you've heard since you were playing at Cal State Fullerton for those 3 glorious semesters.
Yeah.
There's not enough goals. This game sets up as there's going to be a lot of goals. And you just mentioned the game, Miami's last game at Colorado on the weekend. They won 3-2, and Messi scored twice. RSL played later that night. They won 4-2, and that's a game that could have easily had a 7th, 8th, or 9th goal in it. There were so many good chances in that game. So both these teams set up really good attacking, got some issues defending. So, first 1 to 3 or 4 wins this game.
Yeah, I mean, DJ, you and I have done so many games together, hundreds of games together, and we suffered. Did we suffer on some 30-minute post-game shows.
There were some
sometimes. PK, sometimes the DJ would even leave me alone for the post-game show.
He
And
would.
I'm
That
talking
only
about
happened one
Chicago.
time. That was an emergency.
He can tell you that story after we get off there.
That's off the air, big guy.
Bacon was calling?
Oh,
Nature
man.
was calling.
I was like, how many more segments am I doing this show by
Oh,
myself?
you did one segment. You mentioned it all.
I've been there.
If one segment includes 3 interviews and 2 highlight packages for
It is a long
post-game and
segment.
upcoming matches. And both Kenny Neal's like, all right, well, we're going to do this. We'll see what happens. Oh, our producer, director extraordinaire.
Let's just say Chicago had to leave that stadium after I was done with it. All right, enough.
Well, what's even better is Max and I did the Sung Hyung Min debut for LAFC, and because they're playing their games downtown in Chicago now at Soldier Field, it was the first time we were out there for a conflict, and we didn't even have monitors for like 35 minutes. So trust me, that stadium is elite for all of the more indifferent reasons.
Yeah.
To your
Anyway,
question
to the
about
point,
goals.
lots of goals. Lots of goals Wednesday
lots
night,
of
right?
goals. Yeah, listen, I think the loss against Vancouver in the very first game of the season should have been completely different. 1-0 on the road. Since then, 6 games with multi-goals, 2+ goals per match. And what's impressive is they're doing it with the kids, obviously with Gozo and Herzakani, Solon's the draft pick. He's already at 5 goals this season. But more importantly, now you're getting Guillermo, you're getting Olatunji, you're getting Spearings. Now you're going to get Sanabria back into the side after paperwork issues. There was a lot of adversity at the start of the year, and now it's the opportunity for the first time ever for Real Salt Lake to go 5-0, 5 wins, 0 losses, 0 draws to start the season. And on top of that, they're an incredible run of form. So credit to Jason Christ, credit to Kurt Schmidt, credit to Tony Beltran, credit to Miller Sports and Entertainment, and credit to Pablo Mastroeni and his new staff for making some tough decisions in the offseason to head in different directions, to monetize whatever was left in the assets that were fading, and then to bring in so many different players that fit this system perfectly. DJ, you and I have been around the team for a long time. In previous ownership, it was a lean, mean fighting machine. Now you're seeing $16 million spent in this offseason. You're seeing an influx of difference makers, of game changers that are already added to the likes of Noel Kauskin, Diego Luna, Justin Glad, Hafa Gabral, etc. And you're right. This is set up for multiple games. The question is, how do you get past the impact moment of standing in the tunnel with guys like Lionel Messi, Rodrigo De Paul, et cetera, get on the field, put on a show, push away all that anxiety, and then tactically, how does Pablo get the best out of his group while minimizing everything that we already know what Lionel Messi and company are capable of doing?
Man, you just gave a comprehensive answer. I had about 5 questions, and you hit on all of those. So I'll move on to something else. I was going to ask you about the ownership or ask you about the surprise of the team and the youth, but you already hit on that. Last week when we had on Pablo, I asked him about Messi coming in, and I don't know, DJ, you can disagree if you want, but I got the impression that, okay, he's all that, and he's got the rep and everything, and he's an international figure, but he didn't really want to talk about that. It seemed like he wanted to talk about his team. He's saying, let's not get starstruck about him. Let's worry about ourselves. And to me, I thought maybe he would have celebrated a little bit more of this man coming to town, but it seemed more as about his club, which I think that is the focus, probably what they're going to need to be able to win, right?
Yeah, listen, I understand. We've all been around this game. We've all been around professional sports long enough to recognize when there's a certain mindset trying to be created. And we've joked around before my conversations with you guys about Pops. I was roommates with Pablo on the national team. I played with him in Miami. He is as real as you're ever going to get as a human being. But the thing about Pablo is that if you were to sit there and say, man, what a beautiful day. Like, look at the trees. Pablo would be like, yeah, but the roots, the roots under the ground and the nourishment of life. And you're just like, holy moly, what has happened? What did I just walk into? And that's Pops. And that's the brilliance about Pablo, because he's the guy that you want to fight for. He's the guy you want to play for. Obviously, he's been at a World Cup. He's played at the highest level. And when you talk about an absolute competitor, the only thing that's close in terms of a reference point to Real Salt Lake would be that he and Kyle Beckerman are cut from the same DNA strand, where the moment that they walk in the locker room, it's high fives, it's hugs, it's vibes. And the moment that they cross that line, they are ruthless competitors that want to tear your heart out and show it to you. So for the standard that's being set, I think that mentality is being cultivated. It's more about us than it is about them. But I would think it would be naive in a private moment to suggest that Pablo isn't looking forward to the opportunity because it's been a while. And the last time they went down to Miami, I think they put a good account in for themselves in the second half. But how do you manage and manipulate a moment where also, the variation in this conversation is it's an Eastern Conference opponent, so it's a great opportunity for a big pop and not having to deal with the proverbial 6-point swing of a game against a Western Conference opponent. These are the moments you got to take advantage of, and this will be the biggest match that we've seen probably historically for different reasons at America First Field, and I cannot wait to get inside of that stadium because I know all the fans are going to try to get there early to get as many pictures, as many videos, as many TikToks, as many Instagrams as they possibly can if it's anything like what we saw out in Harriman yesterday afternoon when Miami was training at the facility.
I introduced you as Apple TV's Brian Dunseth. Of course, that shorts you because you also work for TNT and you're on the pregame, halftime, and postgame for U.S. national team telecasts. And I'm curious what you think. What has Diego Luna accomplished here as far as making the World Cup roster? What does he still need to accomplish? Where do you think he stands in that process?
DJ, you keep dropping this resume. Not only am I going to have to Venmo you, but you might get me that elusive Rocky Mountain Emmy at some point. So I appreciate all those. What does Diego Luna have to do? Well, he's got to play. And I would say that 2 weeks ago, the rescheduling of the game in Seattle didn't help, right? Because he needs as many minutes and as many games, as many opportunities to really, I think, solidify, reiterate to Mauricio Pochettino that he's the guy. I was understanding of him being left off, Diego Luna being left off the roster heading into the Portugal and the Belgian game, because it was for all the obvious reasons. It was for the reason that he had a knee injury, he was returning from that knee injury, and he'd only played, a short spurt. And listen, I've been around Mauricio Pochettino for the better part of 2 years now, and the one thing that he's always really talked about is I've got to make sure that these guys are in the best run of form, in the best fitness, and the best confidence for making this World Cup roster. So when I choose my World Cup roster, these guys are absolutely flying. That's come with some really interesting decisions, elements, and justifications from Mauricio Pochettino. The one thing there's two things that really play into the favor of Diego Luna. Number one, Patrick Agyemang tore his Achilles tendon, probably within 7 days of departing U.S. camp after the game against Belgium. He was going to play an impact role because there was really no one like his player profile, meaning his size, his athleticism, the way he plays in this roster. He was different than Flo Balogun and Ricardo Pepi. So that will have significant effects on Diego Luna because that'll open up another attacking position. On top of that, Gio Reyna, who for me is really a unicorn and a competitor, a 1v1 competitor for that number 10 spot in that midfield. He's only played 5 minutes since returning to Germany after only playing around 30 minutes in the two games. And one of the things that Mauricio Pochettino was asking was, could Gio Reyna stay as healthy as possible despite playing very minimal minutes? And that's a big question mark. So the great news, Diego Luna in the past two games has scored in the 4th minute and the 5th minute, respectively. I think he's been really strong. He sees the game. He plays the game. And I found myself during the Portugal and Belgium match, DJ, thinking to myself, man, 60th minute, 70th minute, this would be a great time to have a great pop in the crowd for a guy like Diego Luna to step on the field. Instantaneously recognizable the moment that he steps on the field for club or country. And despite probably disappointment for the Gold Cup final against Mexico for his individual performance, I think he's been fantastic every time he's put on the U.S. men's national team jersey. So a huge, huge opportunity. And don't think for a second that Jesus Perez, Miggy, Tony Jimenez, all the staff members for U.S. Soccer won't be paying attention this game to see how Diego Luna gets on against Lionel Messi and Inter Miami.
You touched on the new ownership. Are we with this new ownership, and they got a little bit of a rivalry with the Jazz ownership there, and they're not really discussed in the community, but it's out there. Do you think that we are set up, or they are set up for let's try to spit it out, sustained success, that this isn't just, what they had a couple years ago and they had a great first half and then it petered out, that maybe we can have a run here?
I hope so. But then again, I thought that was going to be the case when David Blitzer had majority ownership and Ryan Smith was involved. In the moment that, NHL hockey was confirmed, Ryan Smith was really no longer around. That was at least my perception of calling games at the stadium. Listen, I don't think it's lost on anybody the narrative that was created around the Utah Jazz previous to their, post their ownership or during their ownership. What I can speak to is just my own perception. I think with these additions in this winter transfer window and the departures, I think there's been subtraction has equaled multiplication. And by that, I mean that Pablo has got a new staff that I think are all on the same page. And I think all of these players were specifically brought in to be built inside of this new playing structure with three in the back. And that's huge because not too often you have this real primordial kind of conflict and battle within any team in Major League Soccer. That is, how do I develop local players? How do I identify the best young talent in the country? How do I get them within my academy? How do then I push them into Real Monarchs and or the first team, while having an owner that from public pressure needs to spend millions and millions of dollars just not to compete, just to maintain their status of competition in the Western Conference with the nuclear arms spending that's happening. And on top of that, how does a general manager or a sporting director pick the right players that then the coach has this philosophy, this tactical nuance of trying to get the best out of? So it's a yin and yang battle constantly. But so far, so good. I think Steve Starks and everybody involved in the partnership and seeing, Scott Crace taking a step back from the Blitzer group, and then Jason Kreis having a huge role and being, I think so far, knocking it out of the park with the decision-making behind the scenes on both the Royals and RSL and the academy setup and the infrastructure behind the scenes. You got soccer people making soccer decisions, and so far, I think the support of Miller Sports and Entertainment has been obvious. And my hope is that it's just the beginning of turning Real Salt Lake into a perennial contender on this Western Conference.
Certainly I think the Miller Group led by Steve Starks has done a great job of threading the needle and figuring out what was missing, but at the same time not changing stuff that was working. Front office executives, scouts, Pablo in the coaching roles, some of the players who've stayed. Great that they held on to those. They didn't need to change everything, but they have spent money. But Dunny, to PK's point about 2 years ago, selling Gomez, and I get it, and they're going to flip the calendar, and it's a problem right now, but selling him in the middle of the year, I mean, there was no way for the team to recreate what they lost. And then Chicho created his own problems, and that snowballed things further. If Luna goes to the World Cup and stars, and then there's this notion that maybe Gozo could go, if one or both of those guys gets moved to Europe for big money, this team's going to look pretty different pretty quickly. And probably not for the better.
Yeah, I get it, and that's always a concern. Listen, for Andres Gomez, $13 million, you got to take that money. I mean, he had 1 6-month window, and he hasn't, by the way, hasn't even been close to the player that he was at Real Salt Lake during those 6 months. He went to France, flared out spectacularly, and now is down in Brazil. Listen, I take your point in full. There was in that. We have to acknowledge the timeline of the sale and the process. The fact that if owners are on their way out, they're not willing to spend money on a product that they're just going to obviously sell and cash in on. Yep. New incoming ownership has to bet in. They have to actually have full control, documents signed, to be able to go and actually spend that money. And then behind the scenes, inevitably in that transition of power, you're going to have power struggles. And the power struggle ultimately is one with Jason Kreis coming back to the club and be given more and more of the ability and the aptitude of making great decisions, regardless of however the tenure of a manager looked, post his departure from RSL. So you're right. There's a lot of, as I said, when Deloy Hansen was forced to give up ownership, I continue to say next to you on that desk, pregame, postgame, there are great people inside this club that know exactly what it takes for this team to compete at the highest level. And I think this year in particular, we're starting to see all of those base formulas. But to your point, RSL inadvertently backed themselves into a really tidy corner. And that is, if you're going to sell Andres Gomez for $13 million, how can you possibly sell either to the league from a perception-wise or from a fan base who's putting their hard-earned money and their credit cards down to go watch these teams? How can you justify selling Diego Luna for anything less than $10 million? And if you're looking at comparing player profiles, if you said to me today, and I say this with all due respect to both players that I'm about to name, if you said, if Diego Luna has a higher chance, a higher ceiling of leaving versus Xavier Goso having a higher chance of leaving, I would say right now, Xavier Goso goes for more money than Diego Luna would go for on the international market, just because his player profile, his athleticism, his size, and the fact that he runs that line is a different conversation than the way that Luna plays that pocket 10. So two different players, two different profiles. But if you said to me right now, if I predicted which one to go for higher money, I would say that Gozo would go for higher money.
Dunny, we will leave it right there. Great to have you on, and enjoy the game Wednesday night.
I appreciate you guys. Let's do it more often. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Dunny. I'll look for you. All right, there's Brian Dunseth. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to Vegas with Mike Folta and update Utah Mammoth. Game 2 tonight against the Golden Knights. We'll get Mike's thoughts on Game 1, what he expects from Game 2 next. Stay with us.
3, 2, 1. This is Scotty G and Coach Tim LeCoe.
Joining us now, longtime head coach at BYU, Dave Rose, kind enough to carve out some time for us. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Not as well as Tim, but I'm doing really well today.
It's a good day today, Coach.
Yeah, it is a good day. I'm really happy for you, big fella. I can remember those days driving in the middle of nowhere on our way to recruit kids or watch games in the summer that you talked about someday wanting to have your own radio show. I thought you were kind of crazy, but
you already knew that.
Yeah, so I'm happy for you. Good luck to you.
It was such an awesome experience. I mean, I had so many different experiences. I worked for Rick and I worked for Ray, and they were distinctly different. And then Ray and Dave were so different, but all in a good way. I just value so much. It was a 12-year education on just how to be a good person.
Catch Scotty G and Coach weekdays from 10 to 2. Presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do-or-die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
Slacker Radio headlines are brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Hockey, 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 and more hockey. Ain't that right, DJ? You hockey aficionado, you.
All hockey all the time now, BK. The Mammoth are playing Game 2 tonight. Mike Folta joins us from Las Vegas. Mike, good morning.
Guys, I'm tired. I'm sunburned. I'm hungry. I don't have any money left. I'm as broke as it gets. I'm tired of this godforsaken town, but you know what? I'm fighting through it. I'm soldiering through because this time of year, it's playoff. Nobody's 100%. We're all a little banged up, but guess what? I'm gutting through it for the boys. Big Game 2 tonight against the Golden Knights.
Man. For me, Mike, and DJ and our listeners right now, I am hockeying on heaven's door.
Well, at least somebody's in heaven, or at least back in God's country, PK. It's fun to be here and fun to be in the mix of all of it, right? Like, it was an unreal crowd the other night in Vegas. These guys, they know how to put on a show, as you'd imagine. And the Stanley Cup playoffs have been exactly what we know them to be. If you look around the league, and I haven't been able to watch every game, but you're seeing dramatic finishes, 2 overtimes between the Hurricanes and the Senators last night, a close one between Dallas and Minnesota. That series is tied. The Oilers score late to to win one last night. Like every single time you turn on a game, something dramatic is happening. So it's that time of year where we all want to be. The Mammoth are a part of it, and they have a great chance to even up the series tonight.
It's crazy watching this thing start because literally I had the TV on, ready for the game to go, and the Sabres game was still going. And there were like 8 minutes left. So I came in at the perfect time. I turned on the TV, and like a minute later they scored, right? And the place is going nuts. And I know the Sabres haven't been to the playoffs in 15 years, and I followed the Bills forever. I know heartache, smaller, mid-market. I can imagine having lived in Salt Lake what those people are feeling. And the place is going nuts. And they get another one, And it just felt like this is going to happen. It was incredible. 4 goals in 7 minutes. And then in the third period of the Mammoth game, it felt more inevitable for Vegas. It felt like they've been here before. On the TV broadcast, they were going hard at the one team's got experience, one team doesn't. They had graphics on the total number of playoff games each team had played. They had all kinds of stuff, right? And sure enough, the third period, when those last minutes when experience should pay off, the team that had the experience made the plays and won the game. And PK and I were talking about it, the margin didn't look that small. It looked like Hartengold made a save with his collarbone, right? Really fortunate Schmidt didn't tie that thing 3-3 from Vegas' perspective. Really unfortunate from the Mammoth perspective. When you're in the arena, did you have that feeling of kind of destiny in the third period, like you can feel it slipping away? And is that something that even playing one time and seeing how close they were, the vibe could be different in game two?
Yeah, I definitely felt it, but I wouldn't call it destiny because I think the Golden Knights in the third period were just that much better. Where, there have been games the Mammoth played. I remember a game back in December. Utah was in Pittsburgh, and the Mammoth were down 3-0 in the third period, but had drastically outplayed the Penguins. And we just hadn't gotten a shot to fall yet. And what do you know? We score early in the third period to make it 3-1. And at that point, you're like, okay, here we go. We're better, and we're going to prove it. And that's kind of what I felt the other night, where Vegas started to turn it up in the third, and the Mammoth couldn't quite get a handle of the game. And so once Vegas tied it in the third period, yes, the building came alive, and you started to feel that kind of transcendent shift, I guess. Like it's not a tangible thing. You just felt it. But, the Golden Knights were better from an X's and O's standpoint in the third period too. And they deserved it in the third period. They've been a comeback team all year, and they've got a ton of confidence playing from behind.
Yeah, I think that's excellent analysis by you as we're watching the game. It was physical and all that. And then obviously the other team turned it on when it mattered the most and won the game. So with that in mind, what needs to change in order to find a way to win this game tonight, game two?
I think the big thing is you can't let their best players control the puck as much. The Vegas is a team that likes to hang on to the puck and make plays. Like you got some teams that are always shooting it. They're shooting it from every angle, even if it's a bad angle. They're shooting and creating broken plays. Where Vegas, they like to hold on to the puck a little bit more and trying to get that perfect play. And they were able to do that a lot in the third and even throughout the game with their best players, Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner, Mark Stone. Those guys were able to hold on to the puck and create plays. And I think the Mammoth have to take, force the puck off their stick a little bit more, force them to move the puck around and not carry it so much. I think also the Mammoth have to be better in front of each net. You saw the Golden Knights tip in the game-winning goal in the third period. It was a shot from the blue line that got tipped in, and Carter Hart made a ton of saves for Vegas, but a lot of them he was able to see cleanly. I think the Mammoth need to do a better job of getting traffic in front of the net and kind of making things dirtier in front of Carter Hart to make his life more troublesome. Because, guys, he gave up some awkward rebounds. Even though his save percentage looked really good, I still thought he gave up some really juicy rebounds. The Mammoth just couldn't get to those rebounds, and they have to be able to create a few more broken plays in front of the Vegas net.
What can they do to get Clayton Keller going? Because obviously he can score, but even more than that, his passing, I mean, led him in assists this year. I mean, goals can come in bunches when he is really rolling. So what can they do to get him rolling?
I don't know. It's like what can you do to get the best player on your team going? Like, it's kind of up to him to get himself going, right? Him and Nick Schmaltz, I would say they were in tough matchups all night against Vegas. The Golden Knights have a bunch of really good defensive forward lines that they can throw out and make things tough for you. I think just the understanding that not every pass is going to be perfect, and not every delivery is going to be right where you want it. Sometimes you got to make do with a pass that's in your skates a little bit, or on your backhand. So I think it's up to those guys. And I think maybe that's why I'm optimistic about this series, where some people are seeing it as a negative, where Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz didn't have a ton of offensive impact in the game, and the Mammoth lost. But I see it as, hey, your two leading scorers didn't have much impact in the game, and you had a 2-1 lead in the third period with a chance to win. So that says the other guys stepped up. Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunther, those guys were outstanding. But I have faith in Keller and Schmaltz that they can get it going. They haven't stayed down for long this season, and when those two specifically are scoring, the Mammoth are almost always winning. I think Utah's lost like one game all year where Nick Schmaltz has scored a goal, and he scored 33 of them in the regular season. So it is pretty remarkable that whenever those two score, the Mammoths seem to win.
Do you really believe that Logan Cooley's life is in jeopardy?
Well, you can't hit what you can't catch. So
nice.
I think he's going to be okay. He's maybe the best skater in this series. I think he is the best skater in this series. I'm not sure that's even that close. And he was getting some serious threats from Nick Dowd, from Rasmus Anderson. I mean, he clearly got under the skin of the Golden Knights, and I was talking with some people who were down at ice level for the game, and we all saw the clips from the TV broadcast of Nick Dowd saying, "I'm going to bleep and kill you." and apparently Logan Cooley the entire game was basically saying, "Oh yeah, bring it on. Like, what are you going to do about it?" Mm-hmm. He was outstanding. He wanted all the smoke in game one. I am fascinated to see how he steps up to the plate in game two. And guys, I think him scoring a goal in the first period of game one is enormous for the Mammoth, because Cooley's a guy who we didn't have any data on coming in, right? Like we didn't know if he was going to be able to step up to the moment, or if it was going to be too big for him. We had known about Dylan Gunther in big moments going back to his junior days. Keller has been good in the one playoff run he was in. I don't know a ton about Schmaltz and some other guys, but Cooley was the big question mark. And what do you know? He quickly gets that monkey off the back. The monkey didn't even climb up to his back. The monkey was like on his hamstring, and he kicks it off in the first period, gets that first postseason goal, and is one of the headlines heading into game two.
Well, let's shock the monkey.
Just launch that monkey out of T-Mobile Arena.
How much of this antagonistic, maybe hate-filled behavior is real, and how much is created by the playoffs? Because honestly, right from the start, anybody goes in front of the goal, there's a whistle, and then someone's coming up bumping, throwing a shoulder, throwing an elbow. They hate each other from previous regular season matchups, or it's just trying to establish the physical intimidation and intimidate the other guy in a playoff series. And then it becomes real over time because you've hit each other 10 or 20 times and somebody does say something, and pretty soon you do legitimately loathe the other guy. But how much of it's just created by the playoffs?
I think it's all the moment. And listen, like, if the regular season was only 10 games, we would get this every game in the regular season too. It's just, you guys play an 82-game schedule. You just can't. You can't get in a fist fight every single whistle, every single night for 7 months, right? Mm-hmm. And so when the playoffs start, well, you're not holding anything back. Not to say you're holding things back in the regular season, but you're a little bit more measured. And yeah, it's the intensity of the playoffs. And you said it, DJ. Like, you once you actually start hitting each other, whether it starts out as real hate or not, like it's real hate by the second period when you guys have had a couple of fisticuffs and got Sean Dursey headbutting people and Logan Cooley face washing guys. Like it's real. It becomes real very quickly, no matter how it starts. And this is what these guys have played for all year. It's what they've played for their entire lives, a chance to play for the Stanley Cup. And now they have a chance to do so. They are going to they're going to make sure nobody's taking liberties at their net. Nobody's taking liberties with their own players, and that's important over a 7-game series because you see that intimidation start to show up later when guys have already gotten beat up a few times.
I think that it's an opportunity to become somewhat frequent, if not annual. So we need a name for this playoff series. That we can have the fantastic I-15, the phenomenal I-15, or maybe how about my personal favorite, the Saints versus the Sinners?
It's our own holy war, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Saints and Sinners, that was a little bit of what we were talking about on our daily show, Mammoth Daily. It's like you walk outside of one building, one arena, you see a temple. You walk outside of the other arena, and you see an advertisement for a strip joint.
Right. The smell of marijuana, the smell of marijuana dominates down there. It makes me sick.
Yeah, we're staying, our broadcast crew, we're staying off the strip. We're staying closer to Fremont Street. So it's a unique experience in Old Vegas. So you got like the Golden Nugget. You got Minions nearby. Yeah. Like all I've been eating is freaking surf and turf and the steak beer and craft combo. So yeah, ready to get back to the Wasatch Front, but not without a series split.
Yeah, the surf and turf in a city that doesn't have a beach or an ocean, doesn't that always bug you a little bit? I know travel's gotten great.
Come on, you've been out to Lake Mead. They got plenty of beaches out there. Lake Las Vegas?
Like the Utah shrimp cocktail. It's just brine flies.
All right, Mike, we will hear you tonight. Game 2. Thanks for joining us this morning, and we'll see you back here after this one's over, even if you've got the money to get home.
Can't wait, guys. Might be hitchhiking my way up I-15. So if you're driving from Black Desert, PK, and you see a guy with his thumb out on the side of the highway,
I'll pick him
up.
Gotcha.
There you go. Thanks, Mike.
See you guys.
All right, your feedback coming up next. Stay with us.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tusk Top.
Join Scotty G and the coach tomorrow from 10 till 2 at Tim Dahle Mazda, 10785 South Autumn Hall Drive in Sandy. All right, time for your feedback. What do you have to say about all the stuff we have been talking about here today? A lot of people weighing in on the whole NBA playoffs or NHL playoffs. Stump rejects the question a little bit. At Kyle Jazzman, the NBA playoffs are greater than the NHL playoffs, but the Mammoth playoffs are greater than any other playoffs. Mammoth trumps all in Stump's world.
Right now or forever?
He does not designate a timeline. So I'll go with right now.
So in 2040, when the Utah Wranglers are in the World Series.
That'll be in October, so that won't be an April, May, June choice.
Yeah, but it's still playoffs.
Yeah, it's still, and it's also, you might have to decide regular season, right? Regular season versus playoffs. Because baseball's playing almost every day.
Yeah, that's the fun part. Yeah, it is pretty much every day. I think they got like 25 days off or something during the season.
1 day a week if you're lucky.
Yeah.
GV says NBA by a lot. The NHL is closer to MLS than the NBA and MLB, in my opinion. Fun distraction, though. That's a baseball, basketball guy right there. He wants his NBA and his MLB.
Yeah, but I think that the NHL playoffs are more like NBA and baseball with the 7 gamers. Mm-hmm. Once you get to that level, obviously early on, the baseball doesn't have that. Whereas hockey and, well, excluding the playoff, you get the point that it is more about a 7-gamer if it should go that far. And 7 gamers, I don't care if the team's got no chance. 7 gamers are always fun series.
Christopher says the NHL, and it's not close. He should have dropped an even in there. That would have been beautiful.
Yeah, you got to. You got to string it out and gradually build. So when you get to the word close, you're just full of vigor and just venom.
Big 12 runner-up champs at True Blue BYU 1984, NHL. And I've always been an NBA guy. It's getting hooked by something new.
I can see that. If it's something new, it's fresh for you and you're into it. And it is the absence of the Jazz playoff. It'll be interesting, and hopefully we get to that point when both teams are playing. Even then, they don't need to literally play the same night, but their playoff games, both teams in the week. You know, what is going to be the interest? Because I still think the Jazz will always be the first love, and it's going to be hard to top the Jazz when they're going well.
It is, but it will come down to winning.
Sure, when they're going, that's why I throw in when they're going well.
Yeah. Yep. Well, you saw that in Arizona. The Suns and 2 college rivals, they had kind of the same setup as Utah, and then they got everything else. Obviously, the hockey has since left. But the Diamondbacks almost immediately ended up in a World Series with the Yankees. Well, how crazy did the town go? Pretty crazy.
Well, they've had 2 World Series, and I was down there for both, yes. And it's all-consuming.
And 1 Super Bowl run, also all-consuming.
Oh, yeah, the Super Bowl, yeah. Wow. I was down there then, too. My brother-in-law, that was the year he died. And so they had a service down there the very week that they were in the conference final. It was pretty electric, for sure. Everybody loves a winner.
Yep. U-State Iceman. Why are you asking? He's got a gif here. Why are you asking a question you know the answer to?
What is the answer?
So I hit him back with Chris Farley. No idea. He says, fine, if you must have an answer as if you didn't know. The answer is the Utah State Aggies. It is always the Aggies. Jack, sticking with his college. It's your school.
Well, I think that print journalists at their core are wannabe lawyers. Mm-hmm. And all lawyers never ask questions that they don't know the answers to.
We get an idea of what you're going to say, but you might put some spin on it. You might reference something. You might crack us up. There's always a chance, right?
Sure. On these questions? Oh, I literally didn't know. I didn't know which way it was going to go. I can honestly say that.
Might be worth a poll question tomorrow. Break it down and see where people fit. Yeah. All right, DJ and PK, we are out of time. Coming up next, get ready. Scotty G and the coach right around the corner right here on The Zone.